It's an age-old debate, which is the best four-wheel drive, a wagon or a ute? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So I'm going to pit two of Isuzu's top shelf four-wheel drives against each other. The MU-X and LST spec and the D-Max X-Terrain. So which one is right for you? Keep watching to find out. As standard, both of these vehicles have driveway pricing of just under $70,000, but that excludes on-road costs. These two test vehicles, however, have a stack of accessories on board, so make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au for all of those details. Standard features across both of these models include this 9-inch multimedia touchscreen system, and that is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The CarPlay is wireless. You also get a power adjustable driver's seat, remote engine start, and a whole stack more. Exterior paint choices on both of these vehicles include magnetic red, mineral white, and Neptune blue. The MU-X has had its existing look for some time now, but the big news is the D-Max has a refreshed front-end design. Big new grille, new headlights, and at the back it's got the three-tiered tail lights. Overall, it's a pretty inoffensive looking vehicle and perhaps a little bit softer in terms of its appearance before, but they both fit pretty snugly into the market as is. There are plenty of hard plastic surfaces throughout the interior, but there are some nice touches, and that's where there are some differences. The D-Max has some red stitching across the top here on its dash and on the seat trim. In terms of cabin usability and comfort, they are both very similar. There are some minor differences though. Obviously the big difference between the two is the fact that the MU-X has 3 rows of seats, so you can seat 7 people. The D-Max has the 2 rows and you can seat 5. In terms of charge points and storage spaces and comfort and overall functionality, again, they are both very similar, both very nice, neat and tidy. You can find your way around pretty easily, and they're both very familiar. And if you are planning to use your MU-X at full capacity with all 3 rows in use, well, the good news is the 3rd row is actually quite good. There's a fair bit of space back here, and you get the usual cup holders and that sort of thing, but it's actually pretty good. The MU-X is a 7-seater, and that's a big bonus if you have a mob to cart around. But if you are carrying 7 people, then you don't get a lot of rear cargo space. That's about 311 litres as listed by Isuzu. You do get a few nifty touches though in the rear here. You've got some underfloor storage space. Not a lot, but it is handy. You get a couple of tie-down points and a power socket. Obviously, the biggest point of difference between these two vehicles is the rear cargo area. The D-Max, it's a ute, so it's got a tub. Now, there is a decent tub liner on here. You get 2 tie-down points. Whatever you pack into here is protected by the manual roller cover. And you do get some flexibility in terms of what you can pack, because you can put kayaks, surfboards, all those sorts of things, taller than the top edge of the tub. You can pack those in here, whereas in the MU-X you don't get that kind of flexibility. The D-Max and the MU-X both have a 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, and that produces 140 kilowatts and 450 newton meters. And they both have a 6-speed automatic transmission, and they also both have part-time four-wheel drive with high and low range gearing, as well as some nice driver assist tech such as the rough terrain mode, which I'll talk more about later. This is not an exciting or dynamic powertrain, but it is solid and it is well proven. I've driven these vehicles many times over challenging terrain, and they have both always proved very effective off-road. Of the two vehicles in this test, straight away it is obvious that the D-Max is a bit more challenging to drive than the MU-X. And that's purely because of its physical dimensions. It's longer than the MU-X, it's got a longer wheelbase, so its approach, departure and ramp over angles aren't as generous as those in the MU-X. And that means you've got to drive with a bit more consideration, because the D-Max is just a touch more likely to scrape its belly on the dirt if you're going over the sharp crest of a hill. But it's not a huge difference in drivability, and with a little bit of extra consideration, a little bit of extra care, you can get the D-Max over pretty much any obstacle or challenging terrain, tough terrain that the MU-X can tackle. They're both capable in terms of the mechanicals and the low range gearing and the high range gearing. They both have a rear diff lock, Rough terrain mode in this new DMX, however, is a little bit better calibrated than it is in the MU-X. That just means that it will kick in earlier and with a bit more punch than it does in the MU-X. That means you're not left with the wheel spinning uselessly. You're not scrambling for traction as much as you might in the MU-X. There is plenty of visibility in the D-Max, and there is ample torque at low and mid rev range, so you can always tap into some of that, and you can use the diff lock at the rear if you really need to. There is a lot to like about both of these vehicles in terms of their off-road capability, but the MU-X just slightly pips the D-Max in a sense of all-round capability, just being that tiny bit more comfortably capable than the D-Max. And while the mechanicals and the driver assist tech, it's all similar across the two vehicles, the MU-X just has it down in basic terms. Physical dimensions and the mechanicals and the whole package just comes together a tiny bit better than in the D-Max. High and low range gearing is good. Hill descent control is very effective, although you still have to drive with some consideration. And both of these vehicles have a rear diff lock if you need it, and sometimes you do. The only real off-road weakness in both of these vehicles are the wheel and tyre packages. Both of them need a decent set of all-terrains. The Bridgestone Duelers on the D-Max are okay, and they're 18 inch and they give you a bit of sidewall to drop tyres down to suit the terrain, whereas the MU-X rides on the 20 inch wheels and tyres, and you just don't have the flexibility on that size of tyre for this kind of terrain. You can't drop air pressures without risking the sidewalls pinching and then puncturing. But all that means is that you swap in a set of all-terrain tyres and you've made what are already pretty good vehicles off-road even better. Both vehicles have the same powertrain and essentially the same driver assist tech, and they are both very effective off-road. And through the years they've become more comfortably capable than they once were. The off-road traction control system has been recalibrated through the years, and there's enough wheel travel as standard, and there's good low and mid-range torque, plenty to tap into, and really, again, the only weakness are the tyres. In terms of packability, the D-Max has a listed payload of 930 kilograms and the MU-X has a payload of 620 kilograms. If you're considering using either vehicle as your towing vehicle of choice, then it's handy to know that you can tow 750 kilograms unbraked and 3,500 kilograms braked. Official fuel consumption for the D-Max is a listed 8 litres per 100 kilometres. On this test I recorded 9.8 litres per 100 kilometres. The D-Max has a 76 litre tank, so from a full tank you could reasonably expect a driving range of about 775 kilometres. Official fuel consumption for the MU-X is a listed 8.3 litres per 100 kilometres. On this test I recorded 9.8 litres per 100 kilometres. The MU-X has an 80 litre fuel tank, so from a full tank you could reasonably expect a driving range of about 784 kilometres. The D-Max and the MU-X are covered by a 6-year 150,000 kilometre warranty, and service intervals are set for every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres. Cap price servicing does apply to these vehicles as long as they are 2024 models or later, and that applies for 5 years. Both of these Isuzus have the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating, and standard features on board both of them include a suite of driver assist tech, and that includes AEB, lane departure warning, and a tyre pressure monitoring system. But as always, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au for even more details. There you have it, two impressive four-wheel drives from Isuzu, and both quite evenly matched in terms of four-wheel drive capability. There's a stack of driver assist tech, there's plenty of standard features, and in terms of all-round drivability, both of these vehicles have lots of appeal. So which one is best for you? Well, cue the hate mail, because I'm going to say right here, that really depends on your lifestyle and your needs. I like the MU-X, I really do. You can't argue with the flexibility of a 7-seat four-wheel drive. But for me, for my money, I'd opt for the D-Max. I use my vehicle to carry loads, sometimes rather oddly shaped, surfboards, kayaks, building materials, sometimes even rocks and rubbish. And I need the flexibility that a ute gives you in terms of being able to carry different loads of different sizes. But you may well be different. But what do you reckon? Have your say in the comments section below. And as always, make sure you read my full written review at carsguide.com.au.